right, good afternoon, everybody. I want to share a Rashi here in Deuteronomy. Which chapter is this? Probably something like 29. All right, so it starts off this parsha, verse 9. We're all standing before the Lord your God. Your leaders of your tribes, your elders, and your officers, every Israelite man, your children and your wives, women, and your strangers, the proselytes, the converts that are within your camps, even down to those who collect your pieces of wood for fire, and those who draw your water. Pass you through this covenant, which Lord your God, the covenant of the Lord thy God, and in his oaths, kind of like a curse oath, meaning a curse if you don't keep the oath, that the Lord your God cuts with you today. That's the way a covenant is made. When you say a covenant is cut. Lama'an Hakimois Chahayom is verse 12. This is where in Phoenixville, we're in Lapland today. Anyway, Lama'an Hakimois Chahayom Loi, in order to establish you today unto him as a people, and he will be for you as God. As he spoke unto thee, and as he promised unto thy ancestors, thy forefathers, thy patriarchs, unto Abraham, unto Isaac, and unto Jacob. So this Rashi I want to share. And he will be for you as God. And I think this Rashi here, again, I'm not coming here to disprove Christianity to Christians. But I want to read this Rashi because I think it brings up a concept to show the difference between Judaism and Christianity. Now, if a Christian finds this convincing and wants to become a Noahide or a Jew, that's up to them. If they don't, it's also up to them. This is not an apologetic reading, although it is a little bit. It's not, it's also not an proselytizing reading, but rather it's simply to learn the difference between one another, because I think that's one of the mistakes. I've run into Christians who've said to me, "Oh, you don't believe in the Bible because Isaiah 52 is talking about who," and we just don't think it is, and they do, and I can respect that they do, and they can respect that I don't, and it's not it's not that big of a deal, but nonetheless, I guess you could say it's ambiguous. I don't really think it's ambiguous. I think it's pretty obvious. But that's not who it's talking about. But nonetheless, that's what Christians think it's talking about. And it's not my business, if that's what they think, to tell them to believe differently. But I also don't think that that's what it means. So forth, and that's kind of the point of what I'm bringing up here. But anyway, beyond that is, I think, a central idea in Pauline Christianity is that it's too hard to keep this covenant, so why enter into it? And in a certain way, that's what's become mainstream Judaism as well, vis-a-vis conversion to Judaism. Instead of welcoming converts the way that the halakha demands us, we have this ideology that is foreign to Chazal of saying that we're supposed to push away converts. When Chazal say we shouldn't be too exacting with converts, we should rather be welcoming of converts. rights. That's what the halacha says. And yet, there's, Medrash, seems to say you should push away 3 times. It's not brought in the halacha, that's not in the Shulchan Aruch, it's not in the Rambam, it's not in the Gemara. And yet, sometimes obscure things become so well known and overblown, whereas they're not the case. And then the Christian will go and say that it's impossible to keep the law as a born Jew also, right? And they say, therefore, in order to receive this grace that is necessary because it's impossible to keep the law, the Christian will say that you have to accept their ideology, their theology, and thus one would be saved on that account. And the Jewish tradition obviously disagrees with that, but I think it nonetheless recognizes the importance of grace, meaning that yes, it is impossible to a certain extent to keep all of this, and yet God has grace on us that we don't deserve, and He bestows that grace upon us not because of anything Christological, but just because of His essence of being good and being merciful and being gracious, on account of our devotion to God. Despite the fact that we don't always live up to it, God still nonetheless has grace upon us and is not exacting, but He is merciful. And I wanted to bring this. This Rashi says, that God, the Lord God, will be our God. The God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob will be for us as a God, as our God, as God. So let's just look at what Rashi says here. Because God spoke to you and promised to your ancestors. So that's another thing the Christians believe in replacement theology. Not all of them do, but those who do would say that God replaced Israel with the church. And again, I'm not offended by that. I know a lot of Christians. I know a lot of Christians, like Christian Zionists, are offended by the notion of replacement theology. And I'm not offended by replacement theology. I just believe it's wrong. I'm not any more offended by replacement theology than I'm offended by Hindus having devotions to Vishnu, or to Norse pagans having devotions to Thor. It's just not for me, but I'm not offended by that. It's just not my thing, and I disagree with it on some level, but that doesn't mean that I'm offended by it, and that somehow I believe it's anti-Semitic or something like that. And even if it is, I don't really care. Like Rabbi, what's his name? Rabbi Lapin says, I don't care if a Gentile thinks I'm going to heaven or hell, as long as he doesn't do anything to get me there any quicker, right? And so, the reason why I would disagree with this replacement theology is because it's wrong, it's not biblical, right? I'm not offended by it. I don't think it's evil in the sense that I have to stomp it out and find it repugnant. If that's what you believe, that's what you believe, just as long as you don't kill me over it. That's all I care. And if you do, so I die as a martyr. So still, I welcome that. I'm not encouraging violence, and I'm not being masochistic or suicidal with this. I'm just saying, if that's what God has in store for me to die like Rabbi Akiva, to die like Rabbi Elchanan Wasserman, or like the Pisetzner Rebbe. I don't think I'm worthy to that type of death. But, you know, I would have to accept it, you know. And part of the reason why maybe I'm not worthy is also because I'm maybe not ready for such a thing. I'm not so comfortable with it as perhaps I should be. You know, Rebbe Melech said we should, you know, picture dying as a martyr, and in that way, you know, feel as if we're doing so, and accept that upon ourselves, like this Sfarim all the Kabbalim say, and thus, in a certain sense, one fulfills that mitzvah of martyrdom, because there is a mitzvah of martyrdom. That's the mitzvah of Kiddush Hashem, the ultimate Kiddush Hashem, but there are lesser levels of Kiddush Hashem. And so even what Rabbi Lapin says is, as long as they don't do anything to get me there sooner, I don't know if I'm allowed to even say that, even though I have to be honest, that's, you know, that far I'm not ready for yet, but maybe someday, you know. And we know, of course, the story with Beis Yosef and the Maggid. Beis Yosef says, the Maggid told him, the angel told him that he would give his life al Kiddush Hashem. So he expected that to mean that he would die as a martyr. When he was an old man, and incidentally, he fathered some children when he was in his 80s. His youngest child, children in his 80s, he fathered a child. So interesting. That's holiness. In any event, the Heilige Beis Yosef, when he was on his deathbed, he said to the Maggid, I thought you told me I would give my life al Kiddush Hashem. I thought that meant I was going to die as a martyr. And the angel told him, no. You gave your life al Kiddush Hashem. Your whole life was a Kiddush Hashem. Your whole life was dedicated to sanctifying God's name. So anyway, we're getting off subject a bit. The point is that God promised patriarchs that he would never have replacement. So this idea that they call replacement theology is not biblical. So therefore God prohibits you, places you into these oaths. Because God is pretty much, he's stuck with you, so don't upset him, right? That's what he's saying here. Like, he promised your ancestors he's going to stick with you, so you better not piss him off, the language. But that's kind of what Rashi's saying here, you know. And because since he can't separate from you, don't upset him. Ad kan prashti lefi pshutei shel parsha. So that's the simple meaning of this paragraph. Midrash Haggadah, but then a homiletical explanation. Lama nismicha parshas timitzavam l'klolos. So why is this parsha? Remember when you started verse 9, and you're standing here today before the Lord your God. So why is it attached to the previous parsha, the same chapter? No, the previous chapter. There are the curses. There's the Tokafah. V'shamu Yisrael mea klos chaser shtayim. Because the Israelites heard 100 minus 2, meaning 98 curses in Deuteronomy. Chutz imam tesha b'toras v'hanan. That doesn't include the 49 in Leviticus. Hariku p'neihem, so their faces turned green. So again, this is along the lines of the Christian Pauline doctrine. Who can stand up? You know, this blessing and the curse of the law. Who could survive such a thing? Hischil Moshe, the Fayesesam, Atem Nisam Hayim. So Moses had to calm them down and say, "You're all standing here today, aren't you? Right? Harbe hechastem u'makom. You have angered God many, many times. V'loi aseschem kloya, kalia. But God never destroyed you. V'hare atem kayamim lefanav. Behold, you're still standing in front of Him." Meaning, the point is that we don't need any Jesus. We don't need Christianity. It's good for the Christians. And Christianity has made this country. And Christianity has made the world a better place. The Rambam says that. And I appreciate that. And so I'm not trying to take Christianity away from the Christians. But I ask the Christians politely, please don't take Judaism away from the Jews. And the thing is so someone asked in another video, I said I expressed support for Christian nationalism, and people don't understand what that means. Christian nationalism doesn't mean everyone has to be Christian, because Christianity believes in free will for the most part, right? Meaning we're much better off under a Christian nationalist country than under the atheists, the communists who blew up our synagogues. Christians aren't going to do that. And as much as we love our Muslim cousins, same thing. Most of the Muslim countries, not all of them, but it's not the most comfortable place to be a Jew. And the truth is, with the Jewish nationalism, it's also not so comfortable to be a Jew. We have devotion to the Holy Land, but the Jewish nationalists have not made it very good for the Jews. But here in America, we've lived pretty well. And that's because the nationalism has been tempered by Christianity. That's what it means, Christian nationalism. It's a nationalism that is not boundless because the fear of God is in it, and also not tyrannical because we're dealing with a non-legalistic faith, so therefore what can they do? Are they going to ban our practices or our faith? It's not, meaning it's different in a Muslim country where it's legalistic, and it's different, and I love my Muslim cousins, and it's different in the Zionist state because they hate Orthodox Judaism, and so they try to destroy it from the inside. They've attacked it from the outside for years, and now they're trying to rot it from the inside by being supportive, and eventually they're going to pull the rug out from under them. All the moisters that are dependent on the tmicha from Medina, they're going to have their rug pulled out from under them. And all these people saying, it'll be better off to go to Israel, this and that. It really isn't. Beautiful country, it's the Holy Land. It's a nice place to visit, but until Mashiach comes, I wouldn't want to live there. And even when Mashiach comes, it says the whole world will be transfigurated, transformed into Eretz Yisrael. Eretz Yisrael will be as big as the whole world is. Yerushalayim will be as big as Eretz Yisrael is. That's what Medrash says. What does that mean exactly? Does that mean the whole rest of the world can get bigger? Or does it mean that the whole world will have the Kedusha of Eretz Yisrael? And what is the Kedusha of Eretz Yisrael? Shumas, Maishas, Shemitah. Funny, there's a secular, there's a non-Jewish wedding that I performed today. The best man turned to me and said, next week is the Jewish holidays. That's the crescendo of the Shemitah year. So the climax, it's either the Shemitah year. He wasn't a Jew, as far as I can tell, but he used the word Shemitah. Interesting stuff. Anyway, that's the point that I want to make, is that we don't need Christianity. We're good with what we have. Let's make the most of what we have. Let's learn Torah. Let's do mitzvahs. Let's do what we're supposed to do. Live a Torah lifestyle. That's what we're here for. And God should bless us that we should be able to serve Him in truth. and recognize this, that God does have mercy on us. He does have grace on us. We have to try our best. That's all we can do. But we shouldn't get so scared and believe that we won't be able to survive, without this, with that we, and even so, even if, quote unquote, it's too hard to keep the Torah, how does that point to Yashka? It's not either or. That's the thing. A lot of folks, and this is something in general, they'll make it appear like, well, it's either this or that. It isn't. There are other options too. Maybe we can get that grace some other way. Or maybe we don't need grace. Maybe God has mercy in some other way. So just to say, well, it has to be this way, that's the missionary way. Because it has to be this way, that's the fundamentalist way. That's not biblical. It has to be this way. From our Bible, their Bible. I've read it. Not so impressed. A lot of foolish things in there. But still, nonetheless, the truth of the matter is, you can read the books that Christians call the New Testament and not understand Yashka to be any more than a human being. Like, I think the Jehovah's Witnesses, they read the same Bible as other Christians. Other Christians will say they're not Christians because it is what it is. I don't believe any of it anyway, so it doesn't matter. But this is what I'm showing you here, is that you can have grace just from God. And it doesn't have to be a big deal. It doesn't even have to be so obvious. It doesn't have to be a big show. You can just demonstrate it with this. So that's basically what I wanted to share. Just by virtue of the fact that we're alive shows that God has grace on us. And that also shows the difference between Christianity and Judaism in another sense. Because Christians are very heavenly minded. And there's a saying that some people are so heavenly minded that they're no earthly good. Now, thank God Christians do a lot of earthly good. But if, whether you're a Jew or a Christian, and all you're thinking about is the afterlife, and you don't have any connection to this life, well, I think you're missing out on something. It doesn't mean to ignore the afterlife. You have to pay attention to the afterlife. But it's not, but there's also a life here. It's true. So, anyway, thank you for watching. God bless. Please like and subscribe, comment, and that's basically what I wanted to share. I think much of it is a lot of people are ignorant, won't know. The other thing is we have to work. And the thing is, the works don't provide salvation. This Christian idea of salvation just means, like, if I rescued the princess from the evil doer, I saved her. So you don't have an idea of it being salvation from hell and this and that. Because much of the rewards are here on earth. Of course there are rewards in the afterlife, if not more because we see when things happen to bad people, bad things happen to good people. So we really don't know who's good and who's bad and how good and how bad. Alright. I'm starting to put myself to sleep. Dozing off. Thank you for watching. God bless. Please like, share, subscribe, comment. I gotta stay awake. I still got an hour and 20 minutes to my next stop, or what might we'll stop before then, just to stretch for an hour and 15 minutes and cut off some time. So, see you all later. God bless. Be well.